Hi there. This podcast will discuss the adolescent brain. But what is adolescence? Adolescence is a transitional period in which physical and psychological development occurs. During this period, many changes occur in the brain. This transitional period is also known as puberty. The brain structure. The structure of the adolescent brain is not that different to that of an adult. However, many changes and developments occur during adolescence. The majority of these changes in the brain occur in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a region in the brain which is responsible for reasoning as well as other things. The prefrontal cortex also causes increased risk-taking and impulsive behaviours during adolescence, such as drug use, alcohol abuse, and antisocial behaviour. This causes increased problems between teens and the law. But what causes this? The adolescent brain is desensitized to the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine controls pleasure responses in the brain. Since they are less sensitive to dopamine, teens seek experiences which give them a greater dopamine release. On the positive side, high levels of dopamine in teens causes improved long-term memory.
So, the prefrontal cortex is located where?
Memory is the faculty by which the mind stores and remembers information. There are 3 different types of memory. Sensory memory is the shortest term element of memory and decays very quickly. The sensory memory is a visual stimuli. Short-term memory holds a small amount of information for a short period of time. Short-term memory has a limited capacity and can also be transferred to long-term memory. Long-term memory is intended for storage of information over a long period of time. Long-term memory has an unlimited capacity. Encoding begins with perception. Storage is the passive process of retaining information. Recall of memory refers to the retrieving of information. Adolescents are more sensitive than adults to the memory-impairing effects of alcohol. Adolescents are slower to forget frightening or negative memories. Memory performance increases during adolescence and decreases in old age. In adults, Alzheimer's disease is one of the most common memory diseases, but in adolescents, Niemann-Pick type C disease affects 1 in every 1,500 people. Excessive amounts of alcohol reduces the size of the hippocampus by 10%. It also affects adolescents as they are unable to recollect memories.
I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Wait, where'd he? Oh, crap, I have an exam. Oh, no.
What is stress? Stress is your body's way of responding to any kind of demand or threat when you sense danger, whether it is real or imagined. The body's defence kicks into high gear in a rapid automatic process known as the flight or flight reaction. Factors that cause stress. Leaving cert. Competition for high academic performance and determination of one's future creates high levels of stress. Peer pressure. Teenagers can experience low levels of self-esteem and may experiment with drugs and alcohol just to fit in. Self-awareness. A heightened sense of self-awareness causes one to become self-conscious, which then in turn causes stress. Impacts of stress on the brain. Alternations in grey matter volume and the brain structure of the frontal cortex, as well as reduced size of the anterior cortex, have been reported in adolescents exposed to early and continuous stress. Stress leads to mental disorders. Stress causes an excess production of glucocorticoids. This in turn may lead to anxiety, depression, and self-injury. There are indications that the adolescent brain might be especially sensitive to effects of high levels of glucocorticoids.
I'm so stressed, I can't do this.
Moral development is the principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behaviour. As we grow older, our morals change to suit our surroundings. When you are a child, your view on the world is mostly black and white, where things are either right or wrong with no in between. As you develop into an adolescent, however, your views on society and your surroundings change with understanding. You start to see the grey areas wherein a situation that is right could have a wrong outcome. Our morality is defined by our moral values. These values lead to what we as a society depict as good or bad behaviour. The influence of alcohol and drugs heavily impacts on our morality. In our society, alcohol and drugs are readily available, and so we are in constant battle with our morals on whether it is right or wrong. All these decisions weigh heavily on us to fit in with social norms and to not get left behind. Different parts of the brain are responsible for our morality. The temporal lobe and the frontal lobe are where scientists believe the moral centre is located. But what if these areas were damaged? What would it do to an adolescent's morals? Overuse of alcohol and drugs harms your ability to make moral choices. Where adolescents have had physical damage to their brain, their morals have completely changed. Example, the case of Phineas Gage.